It's no secret that there's speculation regarding the A7S III. With the release of the A7R III and the A7 III, there has to be an A7S III because there's already been 2 other versions of the A7S. However, if there was any doubts that the A7S III was coming anytime soon, I think Sony put that to rest with their new announcement they just released earlier this week. Sony just unveiled their new OLED EVF, which they claim is 1.6 times higher resolution than that of the older Sony mirrorless cameras. The new EVF boasts about 5.6 million dots, as opposed to the old EVF, which was in the A9 and the A7R III that only had around 3.69 million. This is a significant increase, and it's something that Sony users have been asking for some years now. As the LCD screens of Panasonic cameras such as the GH5 and the GH5S are super crisp and higher quality than every other camera at its price point, Sony users have kind of been stuck with this below average EVF and LCD screen. So hopefully this announcement leads to a future Sony announcement that says they are going to start upgrading their LCD screens as well, making them sharper, more high quality, and hopefully focus peaking won't be a necessity anymore for keeping things in focus when shooting video. We can kind of just get tack sharp focus right from the LCD screen, just as you would get from something like the Panasonic cameras. Regardless, this step forward is not only a win for the Sony community, but it's also, in my opinion, a confirmation of the Sony A7S III coming out very soon. Sony claims this new EVF will be shipping in November of 2018. This new EVF has 3 main features: higher quality, which we already talked about, high-speed frame rates up to 240 frames per second, and lower power consumption. These 3 features can all point back to the announcement of the Sony A7S III. The higher resolution is a necessity when shooting video in order to obtain tack-sharp focus. Unlike when shooting photos, even many Sony users, regardless of the great video autofocus, are still shooting manual focus for their video. Even if you are using autofocus in your videos, triple check checking your shots just to make sure they're in focus is essential. The higher frame rates are perfect for video shooters, and personally I leave my camera on the highest frame rate it can possibly go for the LCD screen and the EVF when I'm shooting video. And the lower power consumption is also good for video shooters because we're constantly going through tons and tons of batteries, and it's going to pair perfectly with the new Z-type batteries that are going into all the new Sony cameras. I'm going to take this time quick to thank the sponsor of this video, Sparespace. Whether you need a website, online store, or even web hosting, do it with Sparespace. They're the best in the game. Use the coupon code SQUARESPACE and you can get 10% off. Now, Sony says they're going to be putting this new EVF in all their high-end cameras. Now that begs the question, is Sony just going to take this new EVF and put it into the new version of their older models and make us wait longer for the A7S III? I personally don't think so. The fact that Sony's releasing this new EVF right around November of 2018 makes me believe that they're going to introduce it with the A7S III. Now, Photokina is approaching in September of 2018, and that's when I think they're going to announce it. That's right around the same time that they announced the A7R III last year in 2017, and then the A7R III was released in November of 2017. Overall, this is a good sign that the A7S III is coming pretty soon. Now, the question is it going to meet everyone's expectations, or is it going to disappoint everyone without having all the features that it needs to compete with the GH5 and the GH5S as being the best prosumer camera in that kind of price range? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm not sure, but I have a pretty good idea. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, but that's going to do it for this video, so I don't know what else to say really. Bye.